Newton's three laws of motion. The law of inertia. Every object in a state of motion remains in that state until an external force is applied, meaning nothing moves unless they are acted on by an outside unbalanced force. A force is something that changes or tries to change a body's object of motion and not something that causes motion. With Newton's first law of motion, the bowling ball will remain in motion until an external force is applied, i.e. the bowling pins. Newton's second law of motion, the law of acceleration, is the relationship between an object's mass, acceleration, and applied force. In this law, the direction vector is the same as the direction of the acceleration vector. The acceleration is proportional to and in the same direction as the unbalanced force applied to it. The change in motion is related to the mass of the object. Heavier objects will accelerate less, and to accelerate heavy objects, more force needs to be applied. Say you're at the grocery store, pushing a cart. The less mass, but the more force equals more acceleration with your empty cart, versus the full cart with lots of groceries. The more the mass, the less the force. That also means less acceleration. Newton's third law of motion, the law of action and reaction. That means for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. When the force is applied to one another, the second force will apply the same amount, but in the opposite direction. When doing box jumps as an exercise, we push off the ground with the same amount of force as we would to land on top of the box, and also when we come down from the box. The effort arm means the which another person or machine applies a force. Load arm means the weight that is carried by a structure, and the fulcrum or axis is defined by the pivot in which a lever turns. Three classes of levers. First class is when the fulcrum is between the effort arm and the load arm. The resistant force is on opposite sides of the fulcrum. It is one of the more rare levers located in the body. As shown, the fulcrum is in between the load arm and the effort arm. An example would be our neck being the fulcrum, our neck muscles being the effort arm, and our skull being the load. Second class lever is defined when the load arm is between the fulcrum and the effort arm. Second class lever is even more rare than first class levers. As you see, the load arm is between the fulcrum and the effort arm. An example would be a wheelbarrow. The wheel for the wheelbarrow would be the fulcrum, the axis. The stuff put into the wheelbarrow we would call the load, and by us picking up the wheelbarrow and wheeling it, we call that the effort. Third class lever is defined when the effort arm is between the load arm. This lever is most common and have evolved to favor the range and the speed of motion. An example for a third class lever would be our bicep. Our elbow being the fulcrum or axis, the load being our hand, and the effort arm being our bicep.